Hey guys, so for today's video, I wanted to talk about Xbox, and more importantly, what is going on at Xbox right now. I know I'm a week late to this kind of conversation after the whole shutting down of Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin Studio, but I wanted to wait for everything to settle and kind of get my thoughts in order on what is going on with Xbox right now and what could happen in the future. And, I just wanted to talk about it. So, last week, Microsoft announced that they were unfortunately shutting down Tango Gameworks, Austin, Arcane Austin, and a couple other studios. They mostly worked on mobile games and support studios, but it came as a big shock. For example, Tango, which released arguably their best game last year in Hi-Fi Rush. It was at the Game Awards, it won multiple awards, and it was universally beloved. Like last year, everyone talked about how good Hi-Fi Rush was and how much they absolutely loved it. And even Microsoft themselves came in and said, "Hey, man, we're so proud of the performance of Hi-Fi Rush. Absolutely amazing. We love it over here." And then, all of a sudden, a year later, they announced, "Hey, we're shutting it down. We're shutting down Tango Gameworks, and that's it." Which is weird because, like I said, they talked about how good Hi-Fi Rush was. Microsoft, Aaron Greenberg considered it a success. And it kind of looks bad that you shut down your one studio in Japan when you're in Microsoft's position, because Microsoft has always went on about how they want to grab a foothold in Japan. Japan is a market that historically has never bought Xbox consoles. Sure they were sold there and they did have exclusives from Japan like Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon, but Xbox has never done well over there. They've always been far behind Sony and especially Nintendo. So this kind of caused a lot of Japanese developers to skip the Xbox because their games don't sell on the Xbox, because especially during the 360 era, Xbox was kind of marketed as the Western Dude Bros consoles. That's where you play your Gears of War, your Halo, your Call of Duty. Well, for example, the PlayStation 3 was marketed as kind of just story, narrative-based games, or where your JRPGs were. So games like Ni no Kuni and a few others, like some of the Tales series, they were exclusives to PlayStation. And even games like Final Fantasy 13, where, yes, they were also on 360, they sold way better on PS3, even though at the time when the game came out, I believe the 360 was outselling the PS3. So it really showed that even at Sony's worst, they still did better than Microsoft in terms of Japan when it comes to getting Japanese games and the Japanese consumer being more interested in PlayStation than the Xbox brand. And they've always tried their best to, they claim they're trying to get a foothold in Japan, trying to work with these developers to get games onto the Xbox and hopefully try to get the Japanese market to buy the Xbox. And Tango Gameworks was their Japanese developer, was the one developer they're like, "Hey, look, we are crying in that region." And now, all of a sudden, they closed that studio down. And it really is interesting what is going on at Xbox, because we've also been hearing stuff about how Game Pass isn't doing as well as everyone thought it was, how the budgets for games are getting so big, and that Game Pass isn't really doing the best of jobs of recuperating these costs. Like, we've seen how a lot of these big AAA games are, specifically from the Western studios, are specifically having budgets of over hundreds of millions of dollars to be made. And it's just sitting there they have to find a way to recoup those costs. They have to find a way to make sure that these studios are able to make a profit from these games. And Sony is doing that with their $70 games, but I'm pretty sure even Sony is realizing, hey, we can't just keep spending 500 million or whatever on games and only selling like a couple million copies. Like, there comes to a point where, like, okay, we need to scale down on games, make more AA games, make games that don't cost over hundreds of millions to make. And I feel like that would work well when you sell a game for $60, $70, because you get $60, $70 out of it for that company from that one game. Well, Microsoft is doing the Game Pass approach. And let's be honest, Game Pass is eating up sales. Games don't sell individually well on Xbox because people would rather just wait for it to come to Game Pass, especially for their exclusives. Like, why would you buy, let's say, whatever new Xbox game comes out when you can just play it on Game Pass? And most likely, unlike other games on Game Pass that could potentially leave down the line, most likely a Microsoft Studio game, a game made by Xbox, isn't going to leave anytime soon. So you can just continue playing that over and over without having to go buy the game. Unless you're Forza, which I believe Forza has these licensing deals with all these car brands. That's why they get delisted and removed from Game Pass. But generally, for their big single-player, multiplayer games, they say they're going to stay on Game Pass. So Microsoft is now in this dilemma where, like, hey, people aren't buying our games. And especially after spending over $80 billion in acquisitions, like what they did with Activision and Bethesda, now Microsoft, the head of Xbox, are looking at them like, hey, we need you guys to release more games than ever before. And we need you guys to make a profit. And now they're looking at these games and they're like, hey, if you're not making a profit, get rid of them. Get rid of that studio. We need games that make money. Especially before, when they didn't spend $80 billion, they were kind of just there for Microsoft, They didn't really make Microsoft all that much money, but they didn't need to. They weren't spending that much on the Xbox brand itself. So Xbox could do its own thing without Microsoft really going in and be like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Because to Microsoft, Xbox was just such a minor division. But now after spending $80 billion on it, now Microsoft has to go in and like, hey, we need to change things up. We need to make money out of you guys now. You guys can't just do what you did before. You guys now are a major player at Microsoft. You need to show some results. And that is causing Microsoft to really maybe tell Xbox to shut down these studios, shut down these Tango Game Studios or these Arcane Austin Studios. But now we are at this situation where we don't know who's next. I know people are talking about Ninja Theory. They're releasing Hellblade 2, and there hasn't been a lot in marketing. I'm going to be honest. I don't think Ninja Theory will get shut down anytime soon compared to a Tango or a Arcane Austin, because when Microsoft bought Ninja Theory, they went out of their way to buy Ninja Theory. They went to that studio and bought them. When they got Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin, they bought them as part of Bethesda. Microsoft, they wanted Bethesda. They wanted Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Wolfenstein. They didn't want really Tango Gameworks or Arcane Austin, They were kind of just a bonus. So for Microsoft, it is easier for them to let go of those studios because, hey, we really only wanted the big franchise and the big developers from you guys. We don't really care about these small guys. So that's fine with us. While like Ninja Theory, they actually wanted Ninja Theory from the start. So I doubt they would be planning on letting them go anytime soon. Though I could be wrong. Maybe after Hellblade 2, they shut them down. I don't know. But I feel like Ninja Theory isn't in the same position as some of these other studios that were originally part of a different publisher, then got merged with Microsoft. Like, I am kind of concerned for these Activision studios because now Microsoft bought Activision really for Candy Crush and Call of Duty and some of the Blizzard stuff. But what about all the other smaller studios that are part of Activision? What's going to happen to them? Are they going to just be forced to continue working on Call of Duty? Or are they going to be shut down? I don't know. And it is kind of confusing what is going on at Xbox, and it's kind of concerning of like what the future holds for some of these studios and what is going to happen. I hope for the best. I hope Microsoft learns from this and, actually try their hardest to keep these studios and not get rid of them and, actually compete with Sony. Because right now, Sony is completely destroying the Xbox Series consoles. And even if you're a big Sony fanboy, you need Xbox to stay in the game. Because without Xbox, Sony will be unmatched and they can do whatever they want. They can increase the prices by like a ton. They can do whatever they want and have complete control over the console market. And you don't want that. You want competition. Competition is good. And, in terms of Sony, I want to make another video talking about my issues with Sony right now and, the exclusive lineup on PlayStation right now and how kind of, I'm a bit disappointed in Sony's output of exclusives on the PlayStation 5. But that's for another video. Till then, see you guys next time.